Turn in your Bibles today. We're going to go to the end of Acts chapter 12. It's a very small section that we're going to discuss today, and it's titled "The Death of Herod." Okay, so last couple days we've talked about Herod, right? We've talked about this idea. Hey guys, we talked about Herod's grandfather. You know, he was the one that when Jesus was born, he's the one that killed all those people. You know, Herod that also was with the beheading of John the Baptist. Again, not this Herod, but possibly either his father or his uncle. And then this Herod is Herod Agrippa. And those of you that like history, read up on the Herods. You know, they're all named after the grandfather, the one that ended up killing all those children during Jesus's birth, that time frame. So if you're with us the last couple of days, right, we've talked about this Herod, and remember he's killed James, the brother of John, not the brother of Jesus, not the ended up be the head, the leader of the church itself, and he's imprisoned Peter. And then we went through the last 2 days. We've talked about the Peter story and really kind of the comedy behind there, and you know the servant girl Rhoda, right? She's going to the door, the gate, and she's like, "Oh, that's Peter," and she runs back. She doesn't even open the gate. She leaves him outside, comes back, and they're all like, "Ah, that's not Peter. You guys are you're crazy. You're hearing angels, right? You're hearing that's just his angel." And they finally let him in, and Peter explains to them what's going on, and then they go out. So we pick up in verse 20 of chapter 12, and it says this: "Now Herod was angry with the people of Tyre and Sidon, and they came to him with one accord." Okay. "And having persuaded Blastus, the king's chamberlain, they asked for peace because their country demanded that the king's country for food. Or, I'm sorry, their country depended on the king's country for food." So again, there's some strife going on, right, in this time. And King Herod has authority. And so they've come to him and said, "Hey, we want some peace, right? You're over this territory. We want peace. We want to settle things. We need the food." So in verse 21, on an appointed day, Herod put on his royal robes, took his seat upon the throne, and delivered an oration to them. So he gave a speech, right? And it says, "And the people were shouting, 'The voice of a God and not of a man.'" Now, okay, these are people that they didn't agree with him, King Herod, before. And they're trying to make peace. And so when he starts to speak, they're like, "Oh, it's a voice of a God, and it's not man," right? Interesting, right? You know, it's interesting to me because how often do you hear that today? All the time, right? You think over some of our political leaders, current political leader on one side, the other political leaders on the other side. I'm trying to be kind of ambiguous here, but right, they would faint, you know, and it kind of makes me think of like Elvis, right? Elvis would start to sing and women would faint, and some of these stars. And Jen and I, and Jade, we watch a show called A Masked Singer. And it's crazy if you've not seen it before. There are individuals in full costumes and singing. And some of them are the craziest. And there's this turtle, and he's like a rocker turtle. He's got spikes and the whole thing. And he starts to sing, and these women are like, "Oh," and they got tears in their eyes, and just you know, they fall in love, and they get infatuated with that individual. And a lot of times, no matter what they say, it doesn't really matter. They've become infatuated with that person, right? And so that's kind of what's going on at this point, right? At first, they've got to fight with him, and they realize, well, he's got a lot of power over us, and so we better listen to him. And they start to shout, "Hey, this is like the voice of God. It's not a man." Verse 23 goes on, though, and says, "Immediately an angel of the Lord struck him down because he did not give God the glory, and he was eaten by worms and breathed his last." Okay, gross, number one. So, but it's not talking about the fact that all of a sudden he was eaten by worms. They're talking about it because he's going into the grave, right? That he was eaten by worms, that he was breathing his life. He had so much stuff in him, right? That's just a vileness of who he was and what he was doing. And, you know, you think of Herod, we know about Herod Agrippa. We know that when he killed James, the Jews loved it, and so he's like, well, if the Jews love it, I'm going to arrest Peter. I'm going to do more of this kind of stuff, right? And so we understand that his purpose in life, Herod's purpose, really was just to get accolades, get individuals speaking praise to him. And God's like, I'm not going to share my praise with anyone. And so, sometimes we can read the scriptures and we read this moment, we're like, so he didn't say anything. So what? What kind of God is that would strike him down? Well, it was just an attitude that he continually had. Okay. Herod continually had this attitude: I want praise. I want everything for myself. And I think, as Christians, again, there's a couple of really good takeaways here. Is number one, glory belongs to God. Whatever you do, whatever you say, whatever you think, glory belongs to God. I don't care how good you are. Glory belongs to God. And it's again the understanding that King Herod Agrippa was appointed by God. It says all leaders are appointed by God, whether they're the right leader for what we really need or not. Sometimes let me say this, sometimes you get a leader that you deserve, but not that you need. Hopefully you understand that, right? You get the leader you deserve, not what you need. It's like getting a spanking, right? You deserve a spanking, and sometimes the leaders that we get, there's some discipline from the Lord, right? And so, as Christians, I think we need to understand that when we worship, or when we do whatever we do, that all the glory, we need to turn it right back to God and thank Him that He gives us the ability. Whether it is preaching like I do, singing, playing instruments, playing golf, whatever it is that you do and you do a good job, it's all about bringing God glory. And understanding that. And I think, on the other side of it, though, too, it's understanding this piece, which is why it's so important that we read this in Acts chapter 12, is that vengeance is the Lord's. Now, the church could have went after King Herod and been like, you killed James and you imprisoned Peter, and we're going to get you for this, right? We're going to picket you, and we're going to riot outside your palace. And they didn't. They allowed God to do what God can do. And I think you and I need to understand that vengeance is the Lord's. Allow God to bring vengeance, because I will tell you what, it's so much better than when you and I do it. When you and I try to bring vengeance, when we try to seek and get justice, it never turns out as good as when God brings the justice. So understand that. Verse 24 goes on, but the word of the Lord increased and multiplied, and Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem when they had completed their service, bringing with them John, whose other name was Mark. Okay. So kind of an interesting end of chapter 12, but what it does is not only does it complete the story of Peter's imprisonment, not only does it complete the story of James's murder, right, with the death of Herod, but it also gets us ready for chapter 13. I love how Luke is the writer of the book of Acts. I love how he kind of pulls this all together. So in the book of chapter 13, we at the end of chapter 12, we were introduced to Barnabas and Saul. We know both of those individuals, but now we're going to know them as two individuals working together, and that's how discipleship works, right, within fellowship. And then on Monday, we're going to pick up Acts chapter 13, and we're going to start seeing their journey. And it's important to follow the journey of the apostles as they go, and because there's some really cool things that happen within that. So have an awesome weekend. Hope to see you guys on Sunday, or I guess sort of see you on Sunday. See you're chatting with us, engaging. Let me just tell you that the title of the sermon was given to me by God, no joke, by God in a dream, in two different dreams, and it's one word, and the word is blow, B-L-O-W, the Ruach of God. If you don't know what that means, R-U-A-C-H, you can go ahead and check it out. But if not, just make sure you join us on Sunday. Love you guys. Have a great weekend.